Welcome to the third and final part of the series where we are learning to store and retrieve secret values in AWS Secrets Manager. In the last two videos, we looked at storing a secret with Java using AWS Secret Manager SDK and fetching the secret value that we stored. If you have not watched these, please do it using the links given in the description of this video. In previous videos, we used a simple Java program which has methods to store and fetch secrets from AWS. In this video, we will modify our application step by step such that it uses Spring Boot features from scratch, which is always running. We will also expose REST APIs to create and fetch secrets, which will make it a dynamic application. Let's straight away move to the code. Initially, we created it as a Spring Boot application but didn't use any of Spring Boot components. So, if you see, it has a main class that has Spring Boot application annotation. If we check its build.gradle file, then we have Spring Boot starter dependencies added, which means that the required jars are already there on the class path. This is the class that we use to interact with AWS Secrets Manager by running it separately using main method, and we never use the Spring Boot main class. In this video, we will use that. These are the methods to store and fetch secrets. If you look at both these methods, they are using Secrets Manager client. So, we can create its object as a Spring Bean and use that object here directly. This will remove duplicate code and enhance reusability. Create a new class that will be our Spring configuration class. Add a configuration annotation here so that Spring Boot knows that this class will have bean definitions. Create a new method that will return a Secrets Manager client. Copy this code that creates the object of Secrets Manager client. Paste it here. We also need to write this method. Copy it from here. Return this client object. Annotate this method with bean annotation so that Spring Boot will automatically call it at startup and create its object. Now you see, the values for region, access key, and secret key are hard-coded in this class. These are fine for testing and development purpose, but should not be inside the code in actual environment. In a Spring Boot application, we can use application.properties file for such values. Application.properties resides in src/main/resources folder by default. Here it is. Create three properties here for region, access key, and secret key. Copy their values from here. Now to inject a value from properties file into a Spring managed class, we can use value annotation followed by the name of property and close between dollar symbol and curly braces. So to inject the value for region, declare a field and annotate it with value followed by the name of property, which is region. Similarly, we create properties for access key and secret key and provide the respective keys. Remove these values and replace them with the fields we declared. This becomes our Spring configuration class which creates Secret Manager client bean using the values fetched from application.properties file. Now go to the service class. We can remove this code which is creating a Secrets Manager client and simply declare a field of this type and annotate it with AutoWire so that Spring will automatically inject an instance of Secret Manager client at application startup. Remove these two lines. Look how shorter it gets. Also remove this main method. In order for AutoWired annotation to work correctly, we need to make this class as a Spring managed bean, and for that, annotate it with service annotation to mark it as a service class. We can also remove this method since it is already used in configuration class. Next, we need to create two REST APIs for storing a secret in AWS Secrets Manager and fetching it back. Create a new class that will serve as a controller. Annotate it with REST controller annotation to make it a Spring managed bean. Define a method that will create a secret in AWS. For creating a secret in AWS, we need a key and a value. We will accept both these values from the body of the incoming request to create the secret. And for this, we need to create a new class that will contain these two fields. Define the two fields here, one for secret key and other for secret value. Generate getter and setter methods. Back to controller class. This method will accept an object of the secrets class that we just created. And since their values will be populated from request body, add a request body annotation before it. Also, add a post mapping annotation with the value of create secret. This will expose an API with endpoint create secret. Now we need to call our service method from create secret. To get an object of service, we must auto-wire it. Call service.storeSecret method with key and values from this request object. We should return a success message as a response when the secret is created, and for this, we will use response entity class. You can simply call its OK method, passing it the message that you want to return as argument. Change the return type of method to response entity. Now let's test our REST API. Start the application. It has started on port 8080, which is the default port of a Spring Boot application. Open Postman. Create a new request. Its type must be post since we have defined our method with post mapping. Its URL will be localhost :8080 / create secret since we have exposed our REST API at this endpoint. We need to send secret key and value in request body. Click on body, raw, select JSON as a type. Define the secret key and its value in request body as JSON. Remember that the keys of this JSON must match with the fields of the secrets class that we created. Before sending the request, let's go to AWS console. Click on Secrets Manager. There is no secret here. Let's also check the region. It is US East 1 and we have set the same region in our Spring Boot application properties file. Back to Postman. Send request. We get a success message. Go to AWS console again. Refresh. The secret is created. Click on this to check the value. Retrieve secret value. This is the same value that we sent in the request. So, our Spring Boot application is working fine. Next, we need to create another API that will fetch a secret based on the key. And for this, we will create a new method fetchSecret. This method will return a response entity containing the value of secret fetched from AWS. So, its return type will be response entity of type string. Expose this method as a REST API with endpoint fetchSecret. Since we are getting a value, this method should have a getMapping annotation. In order to fetch the secret, we would need a key whose value we will be fetching from Secrets Manager. In our example, this is the key. There are multiple ways to get this key in our REST API. One is by accepting it from the request body similar to what we did in the create secret method. Another is from the URL using path variable. To learn more about path variable, refer the video suggestion at top right. Third one is using request parameters with request param annotation. Again, you can get its link at the top right. Links of both the videos are given in the video description as well. For this example, we will go with path variable annotation where we will accept the key directly from URL. Define a method parameter and annotate it with path variable annotation followed by a name. Call the service method to fetch secret passing it the key. Assign this to a variable and return the value as a string message using response entity as we did earlier. Now, how will the value of this parameter be populated? It is through the URL that will be used to access this method. We need to add this name and close between curly braces after the endpoint URL. Now, if we access a URL of this form, then it will consider this value in URL to be the value of path variable between curly braces and populate the method argument which has a path variable annotation with this name automatically. Let's restart the application. Go to Postman and create another API request. The method will be get this time and URL will be localhost colon 8080 slash fetch secret slash the name of secret which is my secret key. Send request. It will take some time in fetching the secret from AWS. Look, we get the value fetched from AWS successfully, and this is the same value that we stored for this key. So, we have created a Spring Boot application that is able to interact with AWS Secrets Manager, and it is able to store and retrieve secrets dynamically based on REST APIs. Hope you liked the video. Thank you for watching.